First and foremost, we do have to address and update you guys on what's going on in a few places. We spoke a lot about what happened here, and if you don't know, we're now getting some pictures of what is being purported as El Mencho funeral, where people have pointed out that, you know, he's still being exalted, even in death, okay? And people have shown on social media that the body of CJNG cartel leader El Mencho arrived in Mexico City, and it was heavily being escorted by National Guards. Now, interesting enough, remember, in the wake of his death, a little bit of a oxymoron there, but still, you get what I mean. In the wake of his death, his organization, CJNG, was actually, you know, kind of ordered by another person, a guy named El Tuli, which is, you know, down the leadership chain from El Mencho, to murder any National Guard members if they so saw them. Okay? Why? Because it was retaliation by the CJNG cartel to let the government of Mexico know you can't just fuck with us like that. If you think we're gonna live in a environment where you think that whenever you want to press a button you could kill our leader, we're gonna make you pay for it. We're gonna burn the city, we're gonna kill you guys, and we're gonna make sure you know it's not safe unless we have this almost underground handshake or one of those head nod agreements. Hey, listen, we won't go too crazy, you don't fuck with us. But if you think that you're gonna twist our arms and bend us to your will and completely eradicate us, prepare to go to war, and we're down to go all 12 rounds. Clearly, I've always told you about Mexico. Mexico is a very interesting melting pot when it comes to how crime, violence, poverty, politics all kind of mix in the same batch. Essentially, you get these cartels who essentially take over these cities and neighborhoods, and, you know, they call them La Plaza, right? And they kind of use that to build their lucrative drug trafficking business. Most of the drugs, you know, whether it's a intermediary spot or it originates, a lot of those things are lab created at this point, mostly fentanyl and stuff like that. They source some of the actual natural required substances to synthesize those things from like China and other places. But they'll create it there, and it's really lucrative if they could just get, even if a bunch get caught, you get some fentanyl into the United States. Obviously, we have incentive not to do that, but incentive not to let that continue to happen. So we want to get those people caught, or we want to stop that. But it becomes very more interesting because it's politics, right? We want to make sure the Mexican government, you know, just in plain terms, are a bitch. If we tell them to do something, they jump, or they say how high. If we say jump, how high? That's what it is. They obviously capitulated. We gave them intel. They killed El Mencho. El Mencho people went crazy. They're killing National Guards. Nevertheless, it kind of shows the balance and probably the still very intense or hot and cold relationship they have to have with drug cartels, because if a drug cartel leader died and his men took aim at National Guard members and killed supposedly up to 30 of them, the bounty was supposedly 20,000 pesos, which was like $1,200 per guy. They were offering $1,200 to kill like a law enforcement agent in Mexico. Nevertheless, when El Mencho gets buried, it goes to show how the government has to treat it. They can't just like disrespect it and disregard it. They kind of have to be like, hey, listen, we understand he held some importance in many places. You know, in many of these cities that they occupied, El Mencho wasn't just considered like some terrorist. He was considered as the lifeline of those places. He helped those businesses survive, even if he taxed them. They have an interesting relationship with drug cartels and their leaders in those places, in those municipalities. It's seen like, okay, these guys, they do evil things, but they're more good than bad. They're more good than bad, and they do the things that government can't do or don't care to do. They care about the little man, and that's important for people. So it's a Robin Hood effect when it comes to how people view most drug dealers if they're smart. If the drug dealers are smart, you want the people to love you if the government hates you. And the people usually will rally for you or help conceal some of your actions or not wage, like, you know, protest the government to get you locked up, which is good. Anyway, El Mencho dies, and the same people who got killed in the aftermath, the National Guard has to escort his body. That sounds crazy. But they have to escort his body to a safe funeral or memorial that will be a public spectacle, which, by the way, if you're thinking about the war on drugs, or if you think that killing El Mencho is supposed to stop all this cartel nonsense, imagine now you have martyrized the guy, so you killed the guy, which now you make him, in essence, a martyr, and you have to put on a lavish or escort his body while a lavish funeral gets put on that he becomes mythicized. What do you think that's going to create for the young Mexican boy that's coming up? He's going to see El Mencho and hear the stories, and he sees this big-ass parade in Mexico City. You don't think he's going to say, I want to be El Mencho? But nevertheless, that's what happens. This is a video. You see the soldiers or the National Guard, whatever. They have ambulances in case there is a shootout. And they are escorting the body. Now it appears the body is probably in this. This is before they probably do the funeral home stuff. Okay. So this is before he goes to the funeral home. So I'm guessing they probably use this, even though it says ambulance. They probably use this as a coroner's van. They transport the body there. It's heavily guarded, right? Remember, they had the body. And by the way, not to get all geopolitical, because I know we've kind of been there recently, but we don't want to do it all the time. Shout out to my man who's in the armed forces. He actually watched my last stream. My man Shane, that's my brother, and he had hit me, and he was kind of like kind of correcting certain stuff in terms of military and the conversation I was having with Myron. But I remember, and without doxing him because I don't want him to get in trouble, he was on the naval ship that after they killed bin Laden, they brought his body back to the ship. And of course, they got all the samples or whatever from bin Laden. And the samples to confirm that it's him, whatever. They take a whole lot of stuff. But ultimately, what they did was they washed his body, they prayed over him, they wrapped him in a white cloth, and they threw his ass overboard. And that was supposedly a very decent way of handling a corpse in the Islamic religion. But the reason why they did that, then returning his body to the people, I think it was found in Pakistan, right? But return his body to maybe, obviously we're not going to return to a criminal organization, but Afghanistan or whatever, was to not create a martyr, right? You don't want them having some crazy funeral for Osama bin Laden, and now every little motherfucking kid is like, yo, I want to be like Allahu Akbar Osama right here. Fuck out of here. We're not doing that, right? So we threw his ass over the fucking, naval carrier, handled him with care. But if you want to go find him, catch him down there with the sharks and the fishes, my nigga. We're not putting him back in motherfucking Afghanistan. Y'all have no fucking parade. Fuck out of here. Respectfully. So anyway, obviously it's a little bit different. This is Mexico, and you gotta, what you gonna do? Like burn the body of the guys? They're gonna hate you even more. So they gotta return the body of El Mencho, and it look like they do. They escort it, right? And they probably bring it to a funeral home that the family probably agrees with, right? And it is now, there's photos of his casket, or videos of his casket that's now kind of come to light. Let me see. Because apparently they're saying the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel was buried on Monday in a shiny gold casket with enormous flower wreaths in a large military presence in a state that gave name to one of the most powerful Mexican cartels. This is a picture of his casket, and there's a few other, I guess this is like the hearse or funeral procession, and yeah, this is like his body, obviously in a casket being loaded into the hearse, and that will be the conclusion of the story of El Mencho, at least his life and death. Okay. Yeah. So if you guys are wondering about that, yes. Now, I didn't bring this up earlier before, but the government did release some videos of his hideout. And this is the place where they caught him. And, it was like a really rural town, rural city. It's like you can see it's really modest. And he was just chilling here. He was kind of trying to lay low. He was a guy who never had many pictures taken of him. He was trying to stay out the way, but also blend in, right? But not blend in the way where it's like, yo, park 20 Rolls Royces outside. No. He was trying to blend in. Obviously, this guy's a billionaire. Not too much over the top, but obviously not clay walls and fucking, kerosene lanterns, right? Like he was living pretty decent. This is the house. And, yeah. So, they had a little bit of food, My boy kept that hot sauce going. I see what's popping on here. Okay. What's this? A little taco or what is this shit? Okay. All right. I believe this is, in Mexican, religious stuff, these candles mean a lot. He still had a little swag, got the Hermes, got the Balmain. You know what I mean? Like, yo, yeah, because stop playing with Mench now. Mench had that drip, though. Stop playing with Mench. He wasn't going too crazy, but I just got to let you know, he had that shit on. He want to let niggas, I had that shit on, man. Got a little Hermes, got a little Balmain, still doing his thing. He was on the run. Now, one of the things, and you'll notice here in the corner, one of the reasons why they caught him was that over the years, El Mencho was suffering from a kidney issue. It required him to have many treatments within hospital settings and a lot of expert physicians that would oversee his health. It became incredibly difficult over the years because he would go to sometimes hospitals. They would try to lock it down. He'd go in there, but then the government or, these authorities would find out and they'd try to okay, now we know he's really critically sick. We could probably catch him when he has to go for his checkup, right? Because this guy's moving around. Like, he had many houses, many. Over time, they kind of realized it's becoming, they're cutting it close. They're almost about to get caught a lot of these times. They then would try to have in-home treatments. You would see some tablets. I don't know what tablets these are, whatever, but he had a health issue. So he was trying to get treated as much as he could within the confines of not going to the hospital or not going into any type of healthcare facility. But, that's one of the things. There was a time that because he didn't have a public appearance, people thought he had died, that he passed away. Of course, for him, that would be in his benefit because people would stop looking for him if they thought he died. But subsequently, they realized he was still alive. He was just remaining super low-key. And such is the case, when they go into the place. And by the way, it was kind of like a private community. It's like a private community, right? There's kind of a gate here, whatever. And as the story goes, at the end of the day, we're not going to blame women for anything because it's really the desire and lust of men. If us dudes could fix ourselves in a way that we're not fucking neutered, but we could control the urges that have to do with sexuality in women or even just a companionship, that would go a long way. If you don't know, his wife was actually arrested years ago for money laundering, and she did some time, but it became really critically and really hard for them to even whatever. So it's El Mencho. Come on, El Mencho can't have one chick, right? You know what I mean? Like, if young boy got 55, come on, El Mencho got at least have 30, right? Come on, bro. Come on. So El Mencho had a couple girls, and yes, he had the baddies. Like, I've seen a couple of girls, he had the baddies. El Mencho wasn't fucking with 5s and 6s. I'm going to let you know that now. He's fucking with 9s and 10s. He had a couple baddies, bring them over. They suck on his dick, pipe them out, whatever, do what he do. And apparently, that's how the government caught on to him. They caught on him realizing that El Mencho, he liked a bad bitch. Like, don't we all? Like, you ain't make $1 billion not to fuck a bitch. Like, come on. So my boy essentially was tracked, or his location was tracked, and his habits were tracked after they figured out a woman that he would see semi-frequently. So he would see a woman that would come over and, do his thing. And they kind of tracked his location, his habits, who usually is at the house through that. Now, we're not sure if the woman, and by the way, I don't want to bring any women on screen because there's a few of his women who have been like doxxed. And those people are actually in fear of their lives right now because, they're all trying to come out like, nah, it wasn't me. Because you would imagine if you're the woman who fucking, obviously not knowingly, but you got traced and followed or surveilled and they found El Mencho, they're going to kill you. Like, you got to go and your family got to go. It's a cartel. You know how to give it up. So I won't show any particular woman, but they're bad. I looked at him and I was like, my boy has some good taste. Now, El Mencho, what age did he die at? He was 59, but trust me, he was on Diddy timing. When I mean Diddy timing, Diddy is 55 or whatever age Diddy is, probably like 54. Diddy wasn't fucking with average bitches. He liked the baddies. He liked the one, Diddy got some taste. We got to be honest. And so did El Mencho. El Mencho, he had the pick of the litter, and that's how supposedly they caught up with him. They caught up with him through a woman. I'm going to stop going down that rabbit hole there, really just out of responsibility, not trying to pull up any possible woman that people could feel like that was the woman because their lives could be in danger. So that's what's going on, at least with Mencho. People are rapidly trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Who's going to take over the organization? They're wondering about interruption in the business. Is rival gangs looking at this opportunity as moments to seize? Other cartels in other areas, are they going to look at this as weakness? From what I hear, there are several people within this infrastructure that already have, marching orders and already they know how the shit's going to go down. So it's not going to be a power vacuum. This is not going to topple them. It's basically just going to create new leaders. And the show, unfortunately for, maybe the Americans and us, the show does go on. So if you thought that El Mencho was out of here, no. All right. So yeah, they torched stuff. They blocked this. Okay. 73 people dead, including 25 National Guards. It's a lot of stuff, right? See bullet holes all over the place. There's also a little bit more pictures. Let's see if I can find it here. Again, the house looks pretty good, Okay, we see that stuff. Okay, anything else? Okay, it looks like we don't have too much. Okay. I feel like I've seen a little bit more somewhere else, but it's okay if we can't find it. All right, so, yeah, all good. So it's like he was living like in his country club place. And apparently like every few weeks or so, he would move. So this is not his permanent residence. He would stay here for a month, then leave. Stay in another house for a month, then leave. And that's how, with no pattern that people could track, it helped him. Okay. Rest in peace, Mencho. Obviously, we're not in support of drug dealers or cartels. However, he's a notable figure, at least in Mexican culture, for better or for worse. Other than that, let me also put you up to speed on a few other things before we get into some hip hop. And we do have some hip hop topics here. Don't you worry. We're not going to just keep it political or keep it